You are out there. Yeah, they might think we're drinking the Kool-Aid, but the reality is most of humanity is still drinking the Kool-Aid and not realizing that Kool-Aid has clouded their senses to such a high degree that they're believing the illusion, this illusion that they give us through the mainstream media, mainstream science, mainstream religions. As you're looking at Chile now, this just feels like we were. Well, yeah, this was California, wasn't it? And then it was up in British Columbia, and then it was again. It's all over the world that we're going through these extremes. Chile has a state of emergency due to massive forest fires, more than 1,000 houses destroyed. This says 10 fatalities. I saw 39 come through on another update. I mean, it seems like it's pretty bad. So again, as always, put your prayers out there. This right here, let's see, this wasn't, it was another post of this. Okay, here you go. Satellite imagery reveals no less than 7 distinct clusters of fire tearing through the landscape over a stretch of 50 miles, breaking out in a very, very fast manner. Now, are they going to say, are they going to have some guy, that has been harping about CONS piracy theories, say that, oh, yeah, he set them all, or some gal? Oh, yeah, he admits to setting them all. She admits to setting them all. Meanwhile, they had to drive hundreds of miles rapidly and then, yeah, set these. No. It's much easier to just press a button and have a dew come down and start a fire in a nice little line. People are catching on, again, underlying arson pattern. Yeah, and then they're probably going to try to blame somebody that has been pointing out what's been going on. Like, and I'm saying this because of what happened to the guy up in Canada, because it just doesn't feel like he was the one that triggered this. And again, we saw those Canadian wildfires pop up over hundreds of miles all at once. How did he light them all? Again, is he Superman?
Right. I know. And this is the part that really kind of gets scary, because those who are out there trying to awaken the rest, because an awake society is a safe society. Those who are asleep, that can be very, very dangerous, because people who are asleep, they don't take into consideration the toxins, the poisons, a lot of things that they may be, getting around other people. So it's like we need more people awake. So those who are blowing that whistle, it can be scary. Weird things happen, strange things happen to them. It's definitely not something that we do for popularity or glory or anything like that. We care about people. We care about humanity, and this is why we do it. We both have interest, personal experiences that make us want to help wake up others, because we know the dangers of staying asleep.
Here's a video that I made 7 months ago titled Simultaneous Fires in US and Canada, where I show on different occasions they've spotted all these fires starting simultaneously from the satellite imagery, both in US on one occasion and in Canada on another occasion. And the YouTube channel that pointed this out was Dutch Sense. On both occasions, he pointed out from the satellite imagery that all these fires in Canada started simultaneously across a vast distance. Not one person could have possibly done it. And the same thing happened in the United States. Then there's the 7 boats that catch fire in 3 locations simultaneously. Here's 8 months ago. Remember the Canadian mayor saying the fires are deep underground and we dig them up to put them out. There's the 5 Secret Service vehicles that were destroyed by plasma fire. That's a classic. What I'm actually looking for here is one of the Canadian officials or one of the officials from Greece that pressed charges against 76 people, if I remember correctly, and the title was 76 Arsonist Scum. Actually, it was 79 arsonist scum, and that was the Greece minister. Now confirms the arrest of 79 arsonist scum for the out-of-control fires raging in Greece that have killed at least 21 innocent people. That was 5 months ago. I'm working on about a 5-hour data dump of content to shake the goldfish, where I'll stash some jewels of knowledge in some bologna sandwich. But none of it will actually be bologna, it'll just be to shake the goldfish. And so intentionally, when I drop 5 hours of content in one day, some of you will know that there's some goodies in there, and other people will be like, ain't nobody got time for that shit. But I'm also going to talk right now and in the future videos about how it is, I disagree with her, it is not. She says an awake society is a safe society. I disagree. If the government knew there was a big old asteroid headed towards the planet, would they tell the people? You all know what the answer is. Of course not, because it would panic them. And so anyone who is participating in the concealment and the cover-up of the truth about plasma fire could do so believing they hold the moral high ground and are doing it for the people that they care about as well, to keep the population calm. Like he said in Men in Black, individuals are intelligent, people are dumb, scared animals that are easily spooked, and you know it. So I disagree. An awake world is a safe world. No, not at this point. So there is actually a moral imperative to keep the population in general unaware of what's happening here, and the incoming asteroid in that analogy that I just made is the equivalent of plasma fire. And I do not think it's just, oh, they hit a do button and it creates all these fires simultaneously in a straight line. I believe it is part of the magnetic pole shift. Fluctuation in the magnetic field creates a surge of ground current, up pops all these fires from underground, and bada bing, Bob's your uncle. And you know how the guy in Canada that she was saying was a conspiracy theorist spouting his conspiracy theories about these fires, and then he admitted, yeah, I started like 10 of them. And that weird things happen to people who blow that whistle. Here in the comments section and the description of this video titled Extinguishing the Snyderverse at Chalk Body Outline Plasma Fire Denier Friday, Friday, Friday. I show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 live plasma fires that I was on the scene of. Some of them while the ground was hot and the firemen show up and say, oh yeah, this started earlier today. Others while they're currently burning. If these were possible to be started by a human, I would be arrested for arson already. The probability of one guy being able to show you all these different fires and him not being involved is 0 if they were not provably non-human fires. Humans can't start these kind of fires with typical incendiary devices, or I would already be in jail. So I'm going to cut this video short, but let's listen to just a little bit more of this video, and now you'll understand what I'm talking about when I say that people who are concealing this, counterintelligence operatives, counterintelligence propaganda operatives like Chalk Body Outline and EBT, are doing so believing they are doing what they are doing for the greater good, for the greatest amount of happiness, for the most amount of people, because the last 5 years have been good years of life for a lot of people to live in. That would not have been the case if the general public knew about plasma fire and the information that I was trying to wake people up to was successful. If my efforts were successful, the world would not be a very good place to live. People would panic, just like the incoming asteroid analogy. When you show them, trees are burning from the inside everywhere, and the government is powerless to stop any of it, the people become ungovernable and unruly. And it devolves into a Mad Max society real fast. So that's just a little teaser for an upcoming video that I'm going to make. Regarding that, I've already recorded actually. I'm just waiting to order them in deployment. And when Chalk and EBT said, hey, we will humor you and do an Extinguishing the Snyderverse on Friday night. If you want to call in and defend yourself, Discord would be the easiest way. We'll give you room to talk. That'll be in an upcoming video. where I show you that these counterintelligence propaganda agents have locked on to Jason of Archaics, who talks about the Phoenix phenomenon. Jason of J-Dreamers, that talks about the plasma apocalypse, which are both the same event. The Phoenix phenomenon and the plasma apocalypse are the same exact thing in different words, just slightly differently described and explained. So those two guys are pushing the same idea and understanding, whether you call it plasma apocalypse or Phoenix phenomenon. And they've locked on to Jeff Snyder, who's documenting and revealing and showing you in real time the plasma apocalypse as it's happening, that he calls plasma fire. These guys are professional agents. This is what this is what it looks like on the front lines of an information warfare that we are in right now. And these guys might actually be the good guys working for the same side, the same agency that I work for. That tension and that friction, by pulling in two opposite directions, me pulling in the direction of the truth, them pulling in the direction of the concealment thereof, the Joaquin and the Boaz, the white and the black, that friction of that tension pulling in opposite directions produces a cultivation of consciousness in the process, and the outcome is a better world worth living in, full of people that are worth living with.
Maybe the reason why the same Trade Center property keeps getting bombed is because the site is designated as a place for psychological operations, that the Rockefeller family has a lot of money to play with. They are at a different level where they would see the world as their own garden. And as a natural part of that garden, they're going to eliminate certain species that they find evasive, and they're going to proliferate roses that they find beautiful. And so the idea of pollinating people with a giant Masonic ritual of two towers that's already embedded inside the history of the Hermetic order, and you guys don't want to look at that. It's literally a tuning fork stuck into the ground, wrapped in a ceremonial circle of water. Manhattan Island is the place of arrows, right? The place where arrows are found.
This is a town.
Here's just a 1-minute flyover of the wildfires in Chile, and you notice the pattern that we've seen so many times, that the trees remain in between the houses that are destroyed. And at first in this video I thought, hey, there's some houses that got burnt that aren't 100% leveled to the ground. They're half burnt, 3/4 burnt, 1/4 burnt. Maybe this wasn't just another plasma fire repeating the same pattern. But then, oh yeah, this looks just like all the others. Trees in between the houses. Houses to the foundation, burnt down to the foundation. Trees still standing, but we're still calling it wildfire. So, yeah, look, there's some that look like they weren't burnt clear to the foundation. That's different. Maybe it's because the material they're making it out of there has less metal in it. Maybe they don't have wires running through the walls for electricity and it's just made out of stone, and therefore it doesn't have the same effect. Maybe it is due to building material differences. But either way, there's still a lot of trees standing in between houses that are leveled. But for some reason, some of the houses aren't completely leveled, so I'll have to look a little further into this because there is a slight difference here. But for the most part, much of the same pattern. Houses leveled, trees still standing in between. Or maybe the difference is they don't have a rebar grid embedded in the concrete of the foundation of the homes, which all of the houses in the United States do. It's a code that they have to adhere to, or the inspector will not allow you to build, etc., etc. They don't have the same bureaucracy in Chile. They don't have the same building code standards in Chile. And maybe the grid of rebar in the foundation of the home works like a tuning fork and an antenna that draws that electricity in a way here in the US and in other countries, Greece, Canada, that it does not in Chile, because they don't have rebar in a grid pattern embedded in the concrete of the foundation of the homes. So that's why some of them burn, but not to the extent that you see in all of these other plasma fires where it's clear down to the foundation, nothing but dust, where the concrete is literally turned to dust. I've told you before on these videos, when it happens in the US, you'll see a drone fly over afterward where you can see the rebar grid of one home after another, after another, after another, where you can see the grid of rebar in the driveway. Because it's not covered with all the debris from the burnt house, you can see the grid rebar in the driveway, and the concrete that rebar was embedded in before the fire has turned to dust. And that's why you can now see the grid of rebar that was embedded in a couple inches of concrete before the fire that is now exposed and visible after the fire. Dustification, as Judy Wood said, as the word that she created regarding the towers that turned to dust as they fell. The same energy that is happening naturally can be tapped into and directed, kind of like those 5 Secret Service vehicles, but overall I believe most of this is part of a natural process of the magnetic pole shift. But my point is, maybe that's why we see these homes that are burnt and the trees in between, we're still seeing the same pattern, and a lot of them are burned right down to the foundation, but some of them aren't. Maybe it's because they don't have the rebar acting as an antenna, a resonant tuning fork type of thing going on in the foundation, in the concrete of the houses.